Hi guys, welcome to today's webinar on sleep hygiene, which is basically making sure that you get good quality sleep and the steps that you can take in your day and before you go to bed to ensure that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for the presentation. All right. Sleep hygiene for physical and mental health. I just put that there to emphasize how your sleep impacts not only your physical health for your body, but also your mind and the way that that functions as well. It's very important. So first off, signs of poor sleep, waking up a lot or difficulty falling asleep are obvious signs right there. But then also throughout the day, are you constantly relying on stimulants like caffeine, coffee, irritated, tired throughout the day? Or another one that a lot of people don't realize is if you have difficulty waking up to an alarm every single day, it goes off and it's just hard to drag yourself out of bed. That's probably a red flag that you are not ready to be woken up yet, because ideally you would just be waking up naturally. All right, so why does this matter? I have found this little graphic here that shows like different things that happens to the body, but basically to sum it up for you guys, long-term, good sleep hygiene lowers the risk of lots of these diseases: heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, obesity, and Alzheimer's. Short-term, things that you can see just without less time, that you would see just in a few days or weeks of practicing it, would be increased energy, a better mood, and also it can help with anxiety and depression to get better sleep. Altogether, it really just improves your performance, and that could be mentally in school, because when you sleep, that's when you are storing things into your long-term memory. So it's good to make sure you're getting sleep with all your classes and tests and all that, because that's when you're really going to remember that stuff that you learned throughout the day. But also your physical performance and the way you perform in the gym and your sport and just your everyday life. Sleep can make a huge difference, and it's something that a lot of athletes don't really take advantage of. They're willing to try other supplements and things that might make a little bit of difference for a lot of money, but a lot of people don't fully take advantage of the benefits of sleep on performance, and it's absolutely free and has so many benefits as well. So a little bit about what happens while you sleep. So just to sum it up, you have different stages of sleep. And if you look on the right, you can see where you start out at falling asleep, and then you go into stage 1 down the line, stage 2, stage 3. So you're going into these deeper stages. And then you shoot up into your REM sleep. Now, REM sleep, you can see it gets, so REM sleep, you can see with each cycle that you go in, it gets longer each time. So you're spending more and more time in that REM sleep in your last cycle rather than in your first cycle. It's a lot shorter. So that's really why it's important to get your full X number of hours in each night, because if you don't, you won't get into that deeper stages of REM sleep, and you also need to get enough of the other stages as well. But I just wanted to emphasize this about sleep quality. So a lot of times we find ourselves wrapped up on quantity, how many hours, which how many hours you really need can vary on a lot of things depending on you as a person and your body, and also just the stress and endeavors that you have going on in your life at that moment. So I know sometimes we get caught up on getting a certain number of hours. For most people, that's probably going to be between 7 and 9 hours. But we want to make sure that when we are in that sleep, we are getting enough REM sleep. So on the left in this chart, it kind of defines the different stages. During stage 3 and 4, that's when you're starting to get into a deeper sleep, your muscles and tissues repair, which is really important. So if you're in the gym, you're trying to build muscle or lose weight, and you're doing damage to those muscles, obviously they're not getting stronger while you're in the gym, they're getting stronger while you're sleeping. So recovery is like a huge thing that is overlooked, and a lot of times we think of sleep as just like this afterthought. Like you got your training and your nutrition, and those are the big two. But I really think that sleep should be up there as a pillar of 3 pillars that goes along with that, because recovery is such a vital stage in the whole process of achieving a balanced a healthy life. So then your REM sleep, obviously, that is the deepest one, but your muscles are the most relaxed, but your brain is actually awake. So that's when you're dreaming. So, I always like wake up, and if I had a good dream or a dream that lasted a while, I'm like, yes, I got some REM sleep tonight. So something about that. So another fact about REM sleep, I found this study while I was doing some research, and it was by the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. And basically they deprived rats of REM sleep, and it was found that when they were deprived of REM sleep, so they still got their other stages, just no REM sleep, their life cycle shortened from 2 to 3 years to 5 weeks, which is drastic just by cutting out REM sleep. When they were deprived of all sleep cycles, they lived only 3 weeks. So that's not good either. But yeah, REM sleep, gotta get it. Now, what is sleep hygiene? I would define sleep hygiene as like a set of things that you do to prepare yourself for sleep. Like in order to have your general hygiene, you shower and put on deodorant and brush your teeth and all that. But with sleep hygiene, there's a few things that I broke all these little tricks down into 3 categories. So number 1 would be having a ritual. Number 2 would be having a proper sleep environment. Number 3 would be things you can do throughout the day, not just before bed. So let me elaborate on each of these things now. 1, ritual. So the first ritual that you should be aware of is the circadian rhythm. And that's basically the fact that humans are wired to rise and fall with the sun. The sun is kind of like our cue that it's daytime, obviously, and when the sun goes away, that's when we should be sleeping. So it's probably ideal for you to revolve your sleep schedule, waking up with the sun and going to bed when the sun sets. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly, and in different states, you get different messed up hours of sun, but that's just the way that we are designed to work, because when you get sun in the morning and you wake up, it stimulates your body that it's time to start producing cortisol. You get a cortisol spike right in the morning, which gives you that energy to start your day in the morning, rather than before bed when the lights go off. That's when you start producing melatonin. So if you are out with the lights on, it's going to be a lot harder. You're not going to feel as tired as easily, because it's suppressing melatonin when the light is on, which melatonin is a hormone that regulates sleep. So besides going with the sun, it's really important at least to have a consistent, timely routine every day. Going to bed and waking up at the same time is ideal for you. So a lot of times when we miss a night of sleep and don't sleep a ton, we just sleep a ton the next day, or we deprive ourselves of sleep throughout the work week and then catch up on the weekends, which is not actually ideal for us. The body can tolerate about a 1 hour difference in either direction from like if you usually go to bed at 11, you go to bed at 10 or 12, like that's okay, somewhere around there. But it's not really ideal to mess with that too much, because then it's going to make it even harder for you to fall asleep, because your body loves routines and just going with the same routine every day. So you don't want to confuse it. And normally if you have a bad night's sleep, the best thing to do is not just to sleep a ton the next day from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. and then your sleep schedule's messed up, but just to wait and try and make sure you get a good night's sleep the next night, and you should be caught up fine. Going along with ritual, a big one here is having a pre-sleep routine. Now, a lot of us wake up in the morning, you have your morning routine. You wake up, I open the blinds, wash my face, eat breakfast, brush my teeth, and then you truly feel like you're ready to start the day when you do that, when you get dressed. For some people, it's taking a shower. But it's also really important to have a sleep routine before bed, because just as your routine lets your body know that it's time to start the day in the morning, you want a routine that lets your body know, oh, okay, it's time to go to sleep. I can relax now. And that can differ for many people. Here I have a picture of a good example of routines. It says sleep routines before, and it says phone 2 hours away, read a book, do yoga or meditate to really relax, drinking tea, aromatherapy, all great options. You don't have to do any of these, but it's just important to have something that you do, even if it's just, if you're somebody who doesn't struggle, it could be just brushing your teeth and going into bed, but you might need something more in depth. I put shower before bed as a great option because one thing that helps signal to your body that it is time to sleep is a drop in temperature when it gets colder. And this goes along with the sunlight circadian rhythm thing because it gets colder at night. So that has to do with a cue to tell our body that it's time to sleep. So if you take a warm shower, get out of the shower nice and warm, walk into a cold room, that's going to really help signal to your body that it's time to go to bed. And then here I have an example of after things that you can do when you wake up to tell yourself that you are awake. All right, second main topic here, your sleep environment. So setting up the stage for when you're actually sleeping. You want to have, main thing that I mentioned earlier, dim lights. So ideally this should happen an hour before bed, so it kind of goes along into the pre-sleep routine. But that is because, as I mentioned before, the light suppresses melatonin. So you don't want to have harsh lights even on in your house. It's better to get something warm, a little lamp, and also the blue light on your electronics, the screen, that's going to be very, very bright and harsh. So while it's good to just avoid electronics, if that is not an option for you, an hour before bed, you're working, you like to watch something, what you can do, you have a couple options. You can dim the light on your screen, turn it down, shift it into blue light mode, so making it warmer. Like have it set on a timer so it gets to warm light on your phone when it's time for bed. You can turn your phone into night mode on apps like Twitter and stuff, and you can also just get blue light glasses, pretty cheap, and they just block the blue light from entering altogether. But I find the most effective thing is just to turn off the lights entirely. And again, having a cooler environment. Studies have shown that a temperature of around 67 degrees is best for sleep. Now, I know for some people you have different internal body temperatures, so I'm not telling you have to make the room completely freezing. If you feel completely cold and too freezing to fall asleep, obviously that's not good for you, but it's just a tip. Maybe turn on the fan, make sure it's not too hot in your environment because that's going to make it difficult. And here I have that graphic I found that kind of sums up everything I said about the temperature. Maybe an eye mask, earplugs if you're somebody who's easily distracted. I definitely am. And darken your room. Another thing I could recommend is playing white noise. If you have trouble distracting, you got some noise going on, you can play white noise on your phone or a CD or anything or whatever you have to play stuff in your room. And yeah, that can really help you get into that like relaxed state in order to control your mind before bed. All right, preparation throughout the day. So this is basically saying that it's not just what you do right before bed, it's also the steps that you take during your day that aren't going to mess up your sleep routine. So one thing I mentioned is not to take large naps throughout the day and not mess up your sleep routine. And that goes along with the routine that I mentioned earlier. Naps, you want to keep them to like 30 minutes about. Another thing, avoid caffeine late in the day. Now these are very like unique to the individual. It definitely depends on who you are and your tolerance to caffeine. Caffeine is one thing that people's caffeine tolerance can vary tons from person to person. But it has been shown that for some people, the half-life of caffeine is 6 hours. So definitely start paying attention to when you're drinking, consuming these stimulants and how much of it you are. So for example, if you have a let's say 300 milligrams of caffeine, which is a lot. You might not be drinking that much, but if you're drinking a large energy drink at noon, and then it could be that 6 hours later, so it's 6 p.m., you still have 150 milligrams of caffeine in your system. And then if we go another 6 hours later, at midnight, you still have 75. So it really does last a long time. So it's recommended just to keep your caffeine if you need it before 10 a.m. or just like limit the amount is going to make a big difference as well. Another thing that depends on the person. So avoiding exercise at night is a good recommendation, so you're not worked up, because exercise raises your heart rate a lot. And it's also going to get your adrenaline pumping, so ideally not before bed. But I know some people have their routines, and if that works for you, then that works for you. It just can make it hard to fall asleep. Another thing is avoiding large meals before bed. It's not ideal because it tells your body you got all this energy to break down, and then it's going to be doing that work to digest the food instead of going to relax before bed. So it's not saying you can't eat anything before bed, and there's nothing to do with, I know there's a lot of things that stemmed off of this, like you can't, like meals before bed will make you fat and stuff, and it's nothing like that. It's just, it can make it more difficult to sleep if you're eating large portions. And again, think about yourself. So for me, I kind of have to eat something before bed, or else I will get really hungry in the middle of the night. So yeah, I try to eat something, but you definitely don't want to be like eating a buffet right before you go to bed. That's going to make it very difficult. One last thing, this one is very underrated. So spending time in the sun. As I mentioned before, sunlight can wake you up in the morning, but just getting sunlight throughout the day helps regulate your secretion of melatonin. So it's really going to control it, and it reinforces that circadian rhythm that it's daytime, and then just it's really good for you. And by the time wow, I cannot talk. It's really good for you because by the time you go to sleep, it helps you to produce the hormones ready for sleep. So that's another important thing. It can also help you feel more awake during the day, which in turn is going to make you more tired at night. If you are spending all day in the dark, that's going to mess with your ritual, and then you might get a burst of energy right before bed, which isn't going to be ideal. All right, so that was all of it to wrap it all up. So basically, guys, sleep hygiene. Let me come back here. All right, so basically, sleep hygiene, really important, really underrated, and especially if you have fitness goals, whether it's weight loss or muscle gain, or just simply performing better in school, work, anything, sleep is going to make a world of a difference. So just some small steps you take can really impact the quality of sleep you're getting, make it easier to fall asleep, and just make you function a lot better throughout the day, and also has those long-term health benefits that I mentioned. Now, just a little disclaimer, if you are one of those people who stresses too much about sleep, that's why I didn't lament too much about how bad it is to not sleep, because we all know a lot of that. And sometimes I know when you're stressing about sleep, that's going to make it harder to sleep. So I find that it helps to have your ritual that you can trust, and make sure that you can really trust that ritual and trust your body that usually if you can relax when your body wants to sleep, it's going to sleep, and just trust the process. If you're doing all the right steps and taking those precautions that I mentioned, then you're really doing all that you can do. And maybe this will help not lamenting so much on making sure you get a certain number of hours, which is great, but also just thinking about it's the quality of your sleep that matters too. So I highly encourage anybody to start just paying more attention to the things they do in their day, during your day and at night, and how that affects how you sleep and how that affects how you feel, because really all of these things have to do with our body, whether it's fitness, nutrition, sleep and recovery, mindset, all these things are all related and they work together. And if you really want to see the most progress, you can't neglect one aspect. Like you can't just neglect your sleep and expect to see all those benefits from working out. Yeah, and that was it for today. So thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.